Alright, so here's the progress on the house. Got the kitchen about knocked out. Just need to do a few small things and get the appliances put in. And I'm kind of bringing all the supplies and all the tools into the kitchen to get them out of the way so we can finish all this area. Hopefully get it knocked out soon. So the next big project on the list is this. So I have to completely rebuild these stairs because the elevation of the treads completely changed when I put down this hardwood flooring. Now it's like 8.5 inches where the original was like 7.25. Also, these treads are not very wide. They're only 9 inches. And generally you want 10 to 12 inches to be comfortable. 11 is ideal. And then down here, this bottom tread is way too high as well. It's about the same, 8.5 inches. Also, these were carpeted and I want to change these to white oak treads. And that would require 3 stringers all the way across, and there's only 2, 1 on each side, and I need 1 in the middle. So at that point, when you figure all that in, you might as well tear it out, completely redo it. So the first thing I did was get my rise. I measured from the concrete up to the top of the hardwood floor and got 105 3/8 of an inch. So then after I determined my rise, I determined the tread depth that I wanted. So I wanted to go from 9 inches to 10 inches. And then I counted the number of treads, which is 13 total. So then after determining your total rise, the depth of one tread, and the number of treads, you're ready to plan your layout. So you could figure all this out manually and do it as you're going. Just draw the layout right on your 2x12. However, if you're interested, I made an Excel program that calculates the layout for you, and I'll put a link to it down in the video description. All you have to do is enter in the information that we previously discussed, and it spits everything out for you. So let's go check it out. Alright, so here's the Excel program I created to calculate the layout. This is the tab we'll be using today. It also has a tab to calculate rafter length and roof pitch, concrete volume, right angles to check for squareness, and a measurement conversions tab. So after watching this, if you're interested in this program, I'm going to put a link down in the video description to tell you where to get it. So my total rise was 105 3/8 inches. My total run is 130 because I have 13 treads and my tread depth is going to be 10 inches. And my number of steps is 13. Alright, so you can see down here it calculated everything out for us. We got a riser height of 8 1/8, tread depth of 10. The total board length is 13, 11 5/16. Cut angle 51, 39, and a framing square pitch of 8 3/4, 12. I also have this layout over here that tells you exactly where all the measurements go. So there's a few other things that you need to consider with your layout that are going to affect these numbers up here. And down here I drew some examples in AutoCAD to kind of explain what those are. So in this first example, if you just put in your rise and your run, this is what you're going to get, and that's what I did up above. However, it doesn't take into account the thickness of your tread board. And if you do this, you're actually going to end up above floor level. So to fix this, you need to cut the thickness of one tread off of the bottom here, and it shifts everything down. Then, if you don't want your top tread to be even with your floor, you need to subtract from your rise 1 riser height, and from your run 1 tread depth. And this is how I want my layout to be. I need to go back up to my calculator and I need to subtract those numbers from my input numbers to get my correct layout. So when I do this, this goes to 97 1/4. I need to subtract 10 from this, so it goes to 120. And when I do that, I actually lose 1 tread, so this value has to go down to 12. So as you can see, that gives me the same riser height and tread depth. So everything else is the same, except I lost 1 tread. And it shifts everything down and back a little bit. And it did adjust my total board length, so now my total board length is 12 feet, 10 7/16. All of this remained the same, so it kept the exact same angles, it just shifted everything down a little bit. So for a quick recap of what I did, was I plugged in my total rise, my total run, and my total number of treads. Then, because I wanted my top tread to be below my floor, I subtracted 1 riser height from my total rise, 1 tread depth from my total run, and then I subtracted 1 total tread from the whole layout. And that's pretty much all there is to it, and these are the exact numbers I'm going to use in my layout. And if you're not quite sure what you should do after watching this video,
If you put in your total rise, it actually gives you a suggested run down here. And this suggested run is based off of the 7-11 rule, which is for every 11 inches of run, you should have approximately 7 inches of rise when doing a layout like this. And that's a rule that's been around for a long time. A lot of builders use it. So take that into consideration when plugging in your numbers, and your layout's probably going to turn out just fine. All right, back to the build.
All right, so we're back. First thing we're gonna do is tear this out. All right, so now that I got everything torn out, these are the 2x12s I'm gonna use to rebuild everything. So I was actually lucky enough to salvage these from when I tore out the ceiling in the living room. And then these are also a higher grade fir species. So this one's Sem fir, and these two up here probably Douglas fir. And what's crazy, with lumber prices right now at the time of this video in 2021, this is probably somewhere between $300 and $400 worth of lumber if I were to order this or buy this brand new. All right, so let's get these things laid out. So 8 1/8 to 10. We'll sight right down the side of the board so you get rid of the rounded corner. There we go. Yeah, that marked it a little tighter with a sharper pencil. 8 1/8. 10 right there. 8 1/8 right there. So one more.
I don't know how many more you want.
Said 12.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, you use that point.
Right there.
All right,
Need a pencil.
Good. This little pencil line should have a black mark. Come up a little bit. Nope.
It's like 3 1/16, so that's like dead on. All right, so we got our total length cut. We went in, we did a layout. Everything on the top and bottom angles worked out great, everything fit great. Now we're gonna cut our individual treads and risers out. Then we're gonna use this one as a pattern to mark out the other two. One more. Uno más.
Sawzall or jigsaws over there.
All right, so I have all three of my stringers laid out and cut. All right, so this top one here is my pattern. When I laid this one out initially, I used a framing square and I did 9 3/4, 12 to get the correct angle. So how that's done is you find your 9 3/4 here, and then you find your 12 mark right here, and then that gives you your angle. So that worked out. And then over here, I used a framing square and I marked my total run in was 10 inches. Got a 10 right there. And then my total rise was 8 1/8. So right there's my 8 1/8 mark. And then I just repeated all the way up and I did 12 total treads. So then when I got up to here, you just kind of square it off and come down. And then on your bottom, you have to remember to subtract your total tread thickness. So my oak treads I'm going to use are 1 inch thick. So I had to go up 1 inch, and then that's my bottom cut line. So that's how I laid out the pattern. And then also when I was marking, use a very sharp pencil to get all the way in as close to the framing square as you can. It gives you the most accurate layout. So once you have your first piece cut, then you're going to use that as a pattern on your other two pieces. So I set this piece on top of this piece and I traced it out. So then once you use your pattern and you trace it out on the other two boards, when you're cutting those, you actually want to remove all of the line. That will get as close of a match to your pattern as you possibly can while just using a saw. Another trick that I'm going to show you guys tomorrow on this third one, as you can see, I have very rough cuts and I left a lot of the line. So what I'm going to do is use this flush cut trim bit. And how that works is you put your pattern on bottom and you put the one that you want to trim up on top. You line up the back side and secure it down with clamps or screws or whatever you're going to use. Then you set your depth and this bearing rides along your pattern, and as it's riding along your pattern and it's spinning very fast, it's going to cut and trim away all the excess so you almost get a perfect match to your pattern. So that's what I'm going to do tomorrow morning. But in the meantime, let's check to see how close our pattern came to our actual layout and my calculations that I did. So right here's my top, and my top angle should be 51 degrees. Right here I have an angle finder. Let's set it on 51 degrees. See, right there's 50, right there's 55, and then it has 4 little hash marks in between. So the first hash mark is 51. Let's set it. And as you can see, that's a perfect match. So I hit that dead on. And the bottom angle is 39 degrees. That angle finder does not go down to 39, but it goes to 45. So we'll just set it as deep as it can go. So that's about another 6 degrees. If I had an actual angle finder, I'd show you. So when I check all my treads, I'll put the framing square in here. See, I got a rise of 8 1/8 and a run of 10. Rise of 8 1/8, a run of 10. And I go all the way down and I checked all of them. They all hit pretty good. So then my total stringer length from point to point should be 12 feet, 10 7/16 inches. So let's check that out. So I have 12 feet, 10 1/2. So I'm only a 1/16 inch off.
So as a quick side note, the calculator does not take into account whether you cut the thickness of the tread off of the bottom, which I did in this case. So this means that my layout ended up being a little bit long, but everything worked out in the end. This measurement should just be used as a quick check to make sure that your layout isn't way off.
And tomorrow morning, like I said, I'll take this flush cut bit, and that should get both these to match the pattern as closely as possible, and then we'll be ready to put these in. All right, I'll catch you tomorrow.
And still get a level there. There?
Yeah. So right there at the bottom of the line is 9. So I'm going from the bottom of the line again. 9 and 1/8, that's right.
Alright, that's good. This ain't perfectly level, this is off just a little bit.
Okay.
This side was a little high, so that's going to be a little less.
Okay.
Yeah. Feels way better. Yeah.
All right, so there you have it. Now we have a much wider tread to put our foot on and just a little bit more of a rise. We went from 7.5 to 8 1/8, but now they're all evenly spaced. Because if you remember, the top tread was 8.5, the bottom tread was 8.5, then everything in the middle was 7.5, and I had 13 treads. So I went down to 12 treads and was able to evenly space everything, and then also have a longer tread, so you have more room to put your foot on. It's much more comfortable to walk up and down on now, and it has the same amount of headroom. So basically what I did was just use my calculator and I played around with it until I got some numbers that made sense. And again, there's a link down in the video description to that Excel program that will calculate everything for you. Also, the measurements that you get on your pattern might vary from the calculation a little bit, but that's okay as long as the pattern fits and everything looks good, and then you can replicate that. So what's up next for this project is I'm going to remove all these treads and I'm going to put in white oak treads and risers. And I'm going to put a link to that video down in the video description or up here when I get that made. And as always, if you found this video helpful, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.